Times article this morning?
No.
You did? Okay, well, apparently the firefighters were asked to step away from the smoldering.
The lack of like capturing. Yes.
Yeah,
I've read that.
text messages going back and forth, and the fire chief or somebody asked the guys to stand down, and these guys are texting it's a bad idea.
They were
Don't
stunned.
do it. I said, don't do it. It's bizarre. I mean, I don't
At
understand.
that point, it was not even dangerous, was it?
No, well, it clearly wasn't dangerous, but that was the idea, is nobody anticipated that that could escalate into something. So that was the leftover of the fire started by the Uber guy. That Uber guy, but I shouldn't call him the Uber guy. But allegedly, yes.
The lack of a fire on New Year's Day.
The Lackman fire on New Year's Day, that's right. And the firefighters, now there's texts emerging that they wanted to stand by and put it out. And they were
why I said
asked
something.
to, and they were asked to pull away from it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the conversation I had with Doug Stewart. No, I just had to bring that up, right? I think, what was it, end of Feb, March? Were you there in the conversation? We were sitting in all those. He was right next to me. We were talking about a bunch of different things. And I said, Doug, I mean, all of this, it sounds okay, because the Rebuild Center was just about forming. I think we were just weeks away from the Rebuild Center opening. I said, look, there's a inherent problem here, which is the number of consultants that we have.
Not enough.
And how would we address the conflict of interest, right? I mean, they're paid by the hour. There's always a justification for more reviews and things like that.
So what did Doug say? Something like, "Oh, that's a bad idea. Just back away."
He actually said, maybe, that's a concern, and a lot of nothing. And here we are, 10 months later. When I spoke with Yolanda the other day, she was saying, Abe, this is our number one problem right now.
There's only a couple of plan review consultants, and they feed each other work and create a economy for themselves. Is that the problem?
That is exactly the problem, number one. Number two is they don't even quite respond to, let's say, what the leadership from the city is asking them or wanting them to do, because they're kind of sort of an independent entity.
Well, that's why it was so interesting that Bureau Veritas was part of the Santa Rosa solution, because they were actually told or paid to come sit in City Hall, sit in the council meetings up in Santa Rosa, and take marching orders from the city council as they made legislative action happen. So that isn't happening in Malibu at all. But that is a way to get through these roadblocks.
But the reason I bring it up after the firefighting thing, it sort of really bothers me on many levels, right? Because you have this whole firefighting fiasco, which resulted in the biggest devastation ever. And then the aftermath of a lot of these things that we are identifying or recognizing or scrambling to resolve 10 months later to get permits issued were identified back in Feb or March.
Yeah.
And they were just flat out ignored by the powers that be.
Slow moving machinery. That's
Well,
bureaucracy.
is it slow moving machinery, or is there more to it than that? Like, why would you ignore something as blatant as that? Look, when I was on the Larry Mantle show, I brought this up right after this consultant thing, and Larry Mantle, sort of looked at me. He was sitting in the corner, I saw somewhere in the middle, looked at me, you guys were there. And he's like, why would the city not do anything about it? He just couldn't understand it.
It's true.
And
It's
I said,
totally
"I wish-
illogical.
I wish there was a better answer.
I don't know. Maybe one of the reasons is that we don't like to be criticized in Malibu, and you have to play nice, right? So maybe we just need to find ways to. But we were very polite since the beginning, right? You were very polite.
Well, when you say we, who do you mean? You mean the city or you mean the citizens?
So the first we was about the city. Right?
Okay, well, if you're a public servant, you're asking to be criticized. That's part of the job. Like, it is part of the job. Like, I'm sorry, this is a world of criticism through social media, TV, radio, and it has been for 20 some odd years. So if you're running for public office, that's open for criticism. If you take a job in public service, you're open to criticism from all angles all the time.
For
You
our
can also say that you also get trained to ignore criticism because it comes from all different angles.
but
And you develop a thick skin.
mean,
So if you don't like it, then go get a new
but
job.
if we could choose, let's be nice to each other, right? If we could choose, I know coming from me is also like
I know, what's in that water, man? I mean, like,
he gave it to me. Maybe that's why.
it's Arno's water that he gave.
No, if we can be nice,
Discipline in a camp.
it's always better.
Play nice in the sandbox.
I've been thinking about this a lot because again, Malibu, right? What is Malibu? Malibu is like this kind of dream place adjacent to the second largest city in the most powerful country in the world. So this is pretty special place, but only like 6,000, now 4,000 people live here. So it's a very small city.
You lost 2,000 people in a month? I thought it was 6,000
Yeah,
a month.
I
But see,
that's
Well, it's definitely not 11,000 as the sign says.
It's 11 or 13,000, right? So
Whatever it says. Yeah.
here, like, also the population is pretty old. We like the face-to-face, and we don't like to rock any boats. They have their own things that they like to complain about. So when we're talking about being more efficient, that requires a little mindset change and and people get uncomfortable with change.
8 months is enough time for mindset.
10 months, yeah, I mean, whatever, 10 months. I mean, this problem has been long known. And listen, what really upsets me and bothers me is like, the fire stuff, the devastation that unfolded, that upended so many bikes. And that is happening right now as we speak. Families are scrambling to get back home. They're spending a ton of money doing all these, nonsensical studies and so on and so forth. And these problems can be solved, and they have just been ignored by the people that had the capacity to do something about it.
But if we look at the last month, if we put the focus on just the last month, we should be happy though, right?
Well, we absolutely should be happy.
Well, we
Well,
can't
what
have
is
that
that?
myopic vision. We got to talk about the whole process for the last 5.
But like Arno is going to say, hey, you need to, sorry
No,
for
no,
doing
no,
your work.
no,
You just actually say it.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was an inherent conviction that everything was set up well following the Woolsey fire. And with the added fire rebate center, so everybody thought Malibu was sitting pretty and the permits will come. So there was a dissonance with reality there that is good.
Well, I mean, I think that part of it was also that, look, we are used to getting permits out in 3 years. We're getting them out in 9 months or 10 months. We are a heck of a lot better.
That's hyperspeed for Malibu.
Yeah, and that's hyperspeed. But when you look at what it can be, like, I mean, the other day we put out the 10-day process, and there was literally sort of silence, right? And it is a sort of like
No,
a
Bruce said that he wants you to Bruce you out.
Yeah,
all the
Bruce
time.
did, indeed, and Doug sent me a note afterwards via email. But largely speaking, from the dais, there wasn't that much.
It was kind of
I was noticeable.
They don't have
I
the.
saw nodding, I saw nods, but no.
Yeah, well, it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. But the point is, what we put out there wasn't that outlandish. It's very gettable.
They prefer to complain about Archistar, which, by the way, I think that we should bring Ben and have them respond or something. Right?
That's true. There's a lot of allegations being thrown around that architects sounds like they're Sheila Sayeda, and in which architects are worried about their data being stolen, their precious data. I'll give it away. I don't care.
It would be a compliment if everybody built that house.
Well, actually, if you're a good architect,
Exactly where that came from.
It's crazy.
I know where it comes from. But if you are a good architect, you design your buildings specifically for this site and for these owners. So but again, it's more, I think that the allegation is, and we're changing topics, let's go back later about the council members, that you are helping Archistar train their brain in order to create designs. Because remember that Ben
Every
started,
time you ask
Generative.
ChatGPT a question,
exactly, every
That's
time you
what's
take a
happening.
photo, dude, if you go on your
nobody's
iPhone,
putting a gun to your head and asking you to do that.
if you go on your iPhone and put search in your photos, dog,
Yeah.
or red car, or like, dude, Apple tracks all the photos on your take.
You
They
got
know where
the
you
Echo
took it.
Dot in your house. That thing is constantly listening, right? I mean, we were talking about some travel thing, and all of a sudden, the next day, I see in my email, a bunch of feeds popping up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Arno's putting chips in these.
Yeah, I was
But I recognize it deserves
I
a
was going to chips
conversation.
in this can. I'm hungry.
I think that there should be a conversation from Archistar or clarification, and I don't give anyone permission to use my plans, right? It's a lot of liability and stuff, and actually you have to ask for permission. Even though there was an executive order Tommy Torres told me this, that now owners who requested plans that they were owners of, you didn't have to ask permission for the architect for this fire exercise. I'm not really clear on how that is, but yeah, they prefer to focus on these criticisms without really
so much
asking
airtime.
architect.
There was so much airtime.
Yeah, it was like half the meeting on Monday. Was
Yeah, it was like slamming Archistar, and I just didn't understand where that came from. I just honestly didn't understand where that came from, because it's a tool that's there. It's optional for people to use. If you find it useful, use it. If you don't find it useful, and it's
Well,
gonna
it
help
can shorten your permitting process.
and it could help the city.
And it's free, right? So I'm using it for my planning verification before I submit. I'm going to Archistar and I'll get a list. It'll knock off maybe one batch.
And it's gonna help you prepare a better submission to the city.
If you're concerned about it, whatever. So this is, this sort of parlays into the other comments that Doug read out, right? I mean, he chose to read out some quotes from a couple of architects. The rebuild center is a genius idea. Everything is working fine. You just the city's spending time addressing the squeaky wheels, which I think is Solfas, right?
Well, that architect is obviously part of the system. That architect likes the system as is. It's a tiny bit faster, so of course they're going to applaud it.
But more than that, that person doesn't. I think there's more to it than that.
It's more to it.
Because I had a chat with Doug afterwards about it, and I said, are you sensing that people are thinking that this process, if it gets too easy, then it'll unlock a whole bunch of others to come in and sort of cut into these grandiose margins a lot of these architects enjoy right now? Folks, and Luis is now, he kind of doesn't agree.
I don't know what the architects here charge. Are they overcharging generally?
Yeah, I wish I could know.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, I know that because I built in LA and Orange County. Yeah, the Malibu architects are, if at the low end about 3x, at the high end about 6 or 7x high.
Wow.
But these
And they're putting together crappy stucco box. So they're charging for expediting.
They're charging for expediting. They're charging for
Not
cracking the code and coming out alive at the back end, which a lot of people will sort of perish.
before conspiracies and this.
No, this is not a conspiracy. This is a speculative argument.
To me, it's like, let's go back to what I was saying about the Malibu bubble, right? That we have special place.
Mafia.
Well, no, bubble. Let's talk about the bubble, like how special this place is. You can live here, and then you don't need to live. Wait, I'm like Tyler says, I prep you, and then boom. It happens also surfing. Like, it takes you 10 years for the lineup to know your face, but once you pass those 10 years, you don't leave Malibu. You don't want to surf anywhere else. That happens also as an architect. I try to stay fresh and not only work in Malibu. It's so beautiful. Like, clients share my vision so I can create really cool stuff. It's hard to find that type of client somewhere else, but I have projects in Michigan, I have projects in LA City, Palisades, Malibu Incorporated, County, Mount Baldy. Like, I try to stay for even in Europe, New York. If once you have this reference from other different jurisdictions and you come back to Malibu, it's like a reality check. It's like, why are things so difficult if they could easily be fixed?
That's exactly the
So,
point.
but maybe these people who are sending these love letters, which I think they come from a good place, because at the end of the day,
I don't know.
they're
I think
human.
this is somebody who's entrenched in the system and wants it to stay
I
in
understand
advantage
that.
because they profit off it for 10 years
That's-
and they want to continue.
They don't want to
do
rock
so.
the
I wanna
boat and buy a bunch of ice stabbers.
They had an agenda. We had an agenda. Let's do that. We want.
We want our agenda
we
is
want-
helping
we
the
want,
residents.
Exactly. We want the houses to be rebuilt.
I want to help the residents,
Yeah.
and my
And that architect has an agenda as well. That architect wants their houses to be rebuilt as fast as possible, and well,
That's what I'm saying, but if you ask, and this is a question I asked, I followed up with an email the next day. I said, could you please ask whoever made those comments is why he or she is okay receiving corrections from 5 different entities within City Hall at different times. You know what that does? Well, that is I'm a living, breathing example of this. Is let's say you've submitted, and a lot of people in the audience probably aren't aware of this, but when you submit your plans in a plan check, you get a set of corrections. Okay, fine, we got it. Okay, now on to the next step. You start working on corrections. A week later, you'll get another set of corrections from EH or Geo or somebody. And then 6 weeks later, you're still waiting for this last set of corrections to write. And by the way, you can't start working on those damn things because you might have to come change it for somebody else because there's a lot of overlap in this plan. So you're waiting and it's like constantly changing.
You don't want to release the design engineers to change it and change it again because they charge you for every change.
But you know what the local architects do? They go in person, they do the face thing, they are nice, and then maybe they get everything. So they are used to it, right? So this person who sent those comments, I think I know who that is. I know for a fact that this person only works in Malibu. So of course, and I think that he or she tried to do a permit in LA County, and he or she told me about this 9 months ago, right? And they were lost. Why? Because it was the first time working in the county. Of course, each jurisdiction has a learning curve, but hey, don't think that Malibu works well just because it's costing you somewhere else. Like, let's be fair when we rate things, right?
I'm just talking from a first principle standpoint. Look, I mean, you look around in general, we don't have a lot of very high functioning government entities around us, right? I mean, yes, LA may be better, this guy may be better, that guy may be better, things like that, but forget all of that. Let's not even talk about comparators because our council hates when we compare stuff, right? So we'll talk about it in just a second. They'll face you up the data and stuff that was brought up. It's kind of mind-boggling to me. But anyhow, I'm just talking purely from a first principle standpoint. If this is the process and it's obviously wasteful and there's low-hanging fruit to be had, you know, where you consolidate the corrections, give it to the damn guy all at once so they can get on with their business and do work, why would you not want to do that? You know, this doesn't hurt the structure. This is not affecting safety. It's affecting cost on your end of the city because you're not dealing with duplicative stuff. And this is just one example, by the way.
But they're used to do it this way. It takes an effort. It takes a
hard for human behavior.
Like when you get everything approved, Louis, you know this, you got to fill out 3 freaking forms with the same information, detailing out how many fixtures you have, how many bathtubs you have.
That's why I since day one,
Process.
I even insisted, why don't we adopt a digital platform like other jurisdictions have? Because you would resolve all those issues. And we had it approved December last year. It got postponed because of the
So
fires.
that's my point. It's
And
like
no
the
one else
people
could do it.
that are commenting to preserve the system as it is. Where is that coming from? Because you sit at a table like this, there cannot be any argument other than the fact that those steps are completely wasteful, not adding value to anybody. Now, I cannot
Except they're
honestly.
creating this system that those in the know how to manage. Those from without, from beyond city borders, they don't know how to manage it. And
So that's nefarious.
And there's also a way like complaining about this. That's where I'm trying to grasp reality here. Like, why would it benefit us to complain? Like, I don't see the upside at all. Like,
Well, we
I
have
don't
been
enjoy.
complaining for seven
But
months.
what is the agenda behind complaining? It cannot, that's only downside to complaining.
Exactly right.
So why are we doing it?
That's-
Because we believe in what we're
Well,
saying.
that's exactly what has been pissing me off because for since February, we've put stuff on a slide, we've been talking about things, the consulting thing we just talked about. Every one of those things, every last one of those things is panning out to be true. And every last one of those things is being implemented.
Well, that means the
And 10 months later.
the 10-day program, they'll be implemented in June next year. So I'll wait until June. So that's for all year.
But that's why we have to be, again, I'm positive today thinking about things in general because it's taking 10 times what it should have taken, but it's happening, right? So we should be
Well, I know, but the thing is that we are still
a long
we
way
still
to
have
go.
stuff on the table that is free for the taking, and they aren't moving aggressively enough to capture them. I think the energy that we have seen in the last 3 weeks in the city has been amazing, right? I mean, it has been incredible.
Except for some public comments and council members make.
So the council members is a whole different story. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Is that I think at the city level, I mean, look, we had the building official walk into our meeting and openly acknowledge that when she walked into Regal Center, she saw some things that she did not like, and she wanted to fix them, right? And these are the steps that she's taking. Look, that was refreshing to hear. Okay, somebody is at least acknowledging.
We're not crazy.
Yeah, we're not crazy. That somebody's at least acknowledging there is an issue. There's no shame in that.
Yeah.
But you listen to our council on the dais, it is still like everything is great. It's for the first time, I think, after the blow up happened 3 weeks back, or this September, whatever. for the first time, then a media person asked Marianne, "How's it going?" She said, I'm going to give it a B plus or something. Right? The grade was a B
Versus
plus.
an A plus.
Versus
Which is what it was in June.
Which is more good, but
in September, until September 29th, until the blow up happened. It was teaching the master class, right?
But I have to say something in defense of Marianne. Okay, like when was she elected? 3 years ago. So the council members deserve a respect because they have been elected by the residents, right? So everyone who voted for Marianne knew that she was a city employee, that she was pro-staff, and she's been very coherent with that. So she's one of the council members who are actually staying with the track that she was supposed to stay.
Yes, fine. Except
the system.
the track that she was on has derailed because of January.
Well, we may disagree with her. I agree with the disagreement, but there's nothing. She's being consistent. So
Well, but that's not a leadership, though. I mean, council, we've elected council to serve us, to enact the will of the people. And they're simply not doing that.
But
Some
have
things
to agree.
we try.
The problem is like
Well, some are trying. I think 2 out of the 5 council members, they're doing the best they can.
it's taking them 10 months to come to to progress through the analysis stage, right? Like about this, like when something happens, first you need to you negate the reality, right? Then you accept it, and then you work on it, right? Is something like that?
Yeah,
So we're still at the first phase somehow, but
10 months later. But see, here's the thing.
Everyone
This
processes slowly and differently.
This could be an intellectual discussion, and we could be pontificating and this and that. But there are real lives at stake here.
It's true. The cost of the delay is brutal for the community.
That is
that's what Danny would be saying right now.
That is what is mind-boggling. That is what is mind-boggling. Is I just can't, for the life of me, figure out how a combination. I think the 3 council members that we were talking about, right, Marianne, Doug, and Steve. I think it's a lethal combination of ignorance, hubris, and maybe incompetence. Right? I mean, it's a deadly combination where they are refusing to acknowledge, like Doug quoting a architect who said the Rebuild Center was a genius idea, and not quoting other professionals that we know have emailed them. What does that indicate?
Is picking the sound bites that work for
For
him.
once, he got a compliment, so he would buy, and he was deeper into it, excited about it.
And read deeper into it, why would you pick the Rebuild Center is a genius idea? Why would you pick that quote out of everything else? Well, because he was instrumental in creating the Rebuild Center.
That's true. He was mayor.
So his
To me, it's very
that was his big accomplishment.
Steve and Doug being aligned on something, I think is very comical in general. They're totally opposite sides of the aisle, and the fact that they are agreeing on this is very.
So can we go back to this December plan of electronification of the plan review process?
So this
Why
is
did
something-
this stop, and how does that start again?
So
Anybody know?
this is my theory, but I've asked this multiple times, and it's hard to gauge reality also. But the city went through a budgeting exercise that it took like 18 months, I believe, right? And where Tyler Industries, which is the company that developed Epic a Day for the county, was going to provide similar services for the city. They got approved. The budget was solidified in December.
Did they ever sign a contract?
Former deputy city manager told me about this. And but then what happened? The Franklin fire. So they were like, you know what? And when you adopt a new software that takes from 12 to 18 months, it bothers the hell to staff.
Yeah.
Because they have to change the way, and they were like, let's just table this.
So it's tabled indefinitely.
But now is the time. This is the thing. We are having like very short sight of the problem. The fire is not a 1 month or 1 year. It's a 10-year exercise. We have a bad system, a system that is not automatic, and they recognize this. So they spend more time and money on improving the little system that doesn't really work instead of focusing on doing it right the first try. It's gonna cause some.
And that's what doing small adjustments rather than an overhaul. So we're stuck with the
But
small
for that,
adjustments.
but also the excuse is that this needs to be pushed by a city manager that we don't have. We need a strong leadership. We
Well,
need
and
like,
it's pushed like that, right?
start
Everybody's like,
mindset.
who says we don't have a city manager? We have a city manager, right? I mean, that's what county.
well, a permanent city manager that was going to see this through,
What's the
right?
difference between former city manager?
That's true. The current city manager could take action. Nothing's stopping her from doing it.
Yeah, I
But
mean, have free power.
But she's listening. She's hearing the staff, and the staff is telling her, "Dude, we are overwhelmed. We need to focus on fire
That's the
victims."
thing, right? I mean, this is the classic startup way of operating. And you guys have heard me say this before. It's like we operate like a seed stage startup company, right? Where you don't have any processes or mechanisms. You're brute forcing your way through the end product.
Yeah.
And that is okay when you're small. Now for Malibu's throughput, up until now, that has sort of kind of been okay. Except now we got to build like 1,000 homes, from Woolsey and Pali with critical infrastructure. We can't operate like a startup anymore.
It's like a boat that has a hole at the
And what's
bottom, and we're
happening
using buckets and doing like that. We
And
should go out and
it's
touch it.
going to run rampant over the city, right? You go on PCH today, it took twice as long to get here than it normally would.
But that's PCH.
Why? Because they're tearing up PCH everywhere. Caltrans is just ignoring whatever the city may have to say, and they're doing what they need to do, right?
But they're doing now,
Stopping the
and we're
world
only
good
good later.
causing traffic to fix the problem now. And the city should look at them and say, we should do that too. Run over the policies and make new ones.
And look, to give credit where it's due, I think the permits, whatever, our number of permits has tripled. Triple eight? Well, that's great. It's Friday? I don't know. So it is tripled in a couple of weeks. So look, credit where it's due. I think these guys are working extremely hard to work these permits through this ridiculously broken and difficult, cumbersome system. Right? So that's where I think the board, the council, as the city guys are just cramming. They're doing a bunch of stuff.
Stuff is
They're
overwhelming.
because of their system.
But that's where the council comes into play, takes a big picture view and say, okay, this is where we need to be tweaking stuff. This is where we need to be providing direction. Instead, these guys like Steve, LA Times article was wrong. And I asked him, what was wrong about it? What was wrong about it? No, it was wrong.
It's like they need a lean consultant. Have you ever used lean consultants to look at throughput for large businesses?
That's how I started my career.
Right? So somebody comes in, watches a body of employees work on their daily routes, and they study them for like a month, and then they present the C-suite with a bunch of suggestions.
But guess what?
And
We
if
have
Malibu
this.
had that.
Malibu
Well,
had this
that
year
thing in
Baker
2023,
Cutie report.
right?
And that's why the community
Put it in
development
the
came out, and that's why they unified everything. But the problem is that this was actually exercised in March, April. So a lot of things are happening right now. But from that Baker Tilly report, you have to clean up processes, you have to unify. These things that you are proposing on the 10-day thing is very much similar to what the Baker
And my
Tilly.
point is that, look, we may not be able to get to a 10-day, but to strive to get to a 10-day process will lean out a bunch of ways.
And maybe it'll get to 40
And that's what I've
days.
been saying for a while, is that we've been asking the wrong question. We've been asking how fast can we go with our broken process, right? And, you create a rebuild center. That to me is like putting a Ferrari shell on a Yugo engine.
It's like you design a car. It's like designing a car and providing the best mechanic in the world. Dude, I'd rather buy a car that doesn't need to go to the mechanic.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. No, that's a great analogy. I mean, you've got great mechanics in the city that are trying to fix this broken system, running around with it. But the question that we really need to ask is, what does it take to get to a 10-day process? Let's wipe the slate clean, and if we had carte blanche and design a process ground up, what would it take? That's the thinking that I was trying to drive. Instead, I get comments like, well, LA Times article was wrong. Hey, you got to start saying good things about the city, man. I mean, come on.
I think that the good
This is so childish.
But you are saying good thing, you are acknowledging the good parts too. So like Arna says, let's be fair. Like how do you say it?
Arnold's like a yo-yo, man. He's let's roll it down. All of a sudden, he's like blasting everybody. The next minute is like, let's all hug or kiss each other. It's like, dude,
Days coupled with get the hell out, Megan.
I know.
The thing is, I believe the permits that are coming through right now, there's a lot of good things happening. Then that needs to be acknowledged, and that can shift the tone, but not what needs to be changed. Because obviously, if I see a building official working weekends, sending emails, and on Sunday evenings, there's something wrong. The system needs to be fixed.
And whose responsibility is to fix the system? Let's brainstorm here.
The city manager.
Yeah.
Or the council.
well, the council, look, my view is this. That the city staff is operating in DEFCON mode, then it is impossible for them to sort of keep an eye out for where the next ballistic missile is getting launched from, or who's likely, to create that new threat. That's what we have the board there for.
Right.
And if the board is not even open to thinking like that, that is a serious problem.
The board doesn't have to wish
That's my point.
something. Yeah,
That's my
If
point. If
they
the
don't
board
want to.
already thinks that we're okay.
Yeah.
You know, if you're constantly reading out codes that, oh no, we're good, this architect.
I don't think that they think that we're okay. They want to say that we're okay for the public
they're
opinion, but
gaslighting.
internally, I think so.
So they're gaslighting.
I think
So internally,
but
so
they
it's
feel that it's the
basically
right thing to
self-preservation?
do. But it's the right thing to do.
So it's basically what
Self-preservation. I mean,
So
that's
the
part of
question-
every human
But
being.
that would mean that they're really doing a lot in the background. And what is that?
I think
they're
they're convincing
consistent.
themselves too
Yeah.
that everything is fine and that we have done all we could. But we are time and again pointing out that no, guys, you have not done all you could. Case in point is a conversation about consultants 9 months back. You could have done stuff, you chose not to do it.
Yeah. Well, they do have an RFQ out. Has that been answered? Does anybody know?
Well,
Can you plan
clear
for
now.
new consultants? They released it on the 30th of September.
Yeah. So there are a couple of consultants that are coming, and I think the right steps are being taken.
Planning or geo consultants?
Geo and EH.
Geo, yeah, so not planning.
No. Planning, Tyler's got it.
But how many lives have we already lost in this drill? And the point is fine. You know, bygones are bygones. Water under the bridge. You know, none of us anticipated this time last year that we'll be having this conversation. It's new for all of us.
Yeah.
Why can't we collectively admit that? Why can't we collectively admit that and learn? You know, Santa Rosa. Oh, Santa Rosa is different from us. My God, every time I hear that, I get
When something like that happens, the question is not how is it different. The question is what are the parallels? What is there we can learn from it?
And can we
That's the
clarify?
question to ask. And if the
Rosa, the difference is true that has two different cities, right? One that's on the hills, one that's on the flats.
Yeah.
So the one on the flats, they are at 92% recovery
93% well.
after 8 years.
Uh,
The one on the hills, 82%.
Yes.
So compare 82%, which is Malibu
That's
High,
right.
with Malibu,
right.
we're at
Still
40%.
Still it. And Santa
was,
Rosa,
never
people can
always.
make an argument. This is what I wrote in my column in Malibu Times. People can actually make an argument that Malibu has more affluence. Malibu has more attention from, you know, sort of Sacramento or even DC. Malibu has more proximity to construction, you know, building capability by virtue of being extra metropolis. So Malibu actually has a lot more advantages than Santa Rosa, which is a little bit remote. Instead of focusing on that, and then there are similarities, right? Because they run a weak mayor, strong city manager system, just like we do in a council. Instead of
We just
focusing on
built
similarities,
as a city manager right now. We don't have a strong.
but instead of focusing on the similarities and our advantages, we choose to pinpoint on areas where we're different. And then Steve's other comment is, well, we got dewatering going on. Well, I
It
mean,
had nothing to do with anything. Yeah.
well, not only does that have nothing to do with anything, but dewatering, one can argue that's actually an advantage. Because we have dewatering, we have the systems in place, let's go build.
Dewatering,
years to know what that area of Malibu looks like. We monitor it, and in other areas of the country, next year there's going to be a landslide, and it will catch everybody by surprise. We know that we won't have one there.
But that applies just to Big Rock Mesa, right? Does anybody else have dewatering? No. Okay, so all the other rebuilds that are to the west, they're still in the geo question zone. Everybody on the beach, they're in the geo question.
Liquefaction, you have a good
Big Rock Mesa, you guys should be good.
Well, I mean, even, let's just say dewatering is away. The reason I bring up dewatering is because he mentioned it from the days, and I thought that was.
It's a red herring.
That's
That's
a
nothing
word.
to do.
Well, that's not only a red herring, but it's also a point to his own contradiction, action. Because he's making the argument as to why we should be better than Santa Rosa. Because Fountain Grove and Santa Rosa did not have dewatering. They're on a hilly terrain, but they are dewatered and monitored. So let's go. What are we waiting for?
But the dewatering, I think that he meant more like we need to have dewatering to prevent a landslide.
So that's
Therefore,
what-
It's there.
That's already happening.
It's there for 50 years. But we're doing that, so it's fine. So
I mean,
it's preventive.
from my perspective, again, as a professional, I don't think that is the council jurisdiction to talk about landslides. That's the building official. So if the building official has a lot of authority to determine how to implement the code sections from LA County building, there it says, dude, there's landslide map there, yes? The building official can determine what measures to take. So it's up to
No, I know.
her.
But my point is, Dana, my point is that there is this constant close-mindedness, right? It is this constant close-mindedness from council that we got this. We don't need any influence, any inputs. You know, that's the thing. And that's what irritates the heck out of me is for the last 9-10 months, we've been offering up ideas constantly, and the reception that we've gotten, and now, hey guys, it's okay, we got this. And 10 months later, we're finding out that each and every one of them that are being acknowledged by city staff. They are actually acknowledging and taking action to implement them. And these guys in council are still woefully unaware of this.
Well, but as long as the reality is, it is what it is.
The reality is positive, right? The reality is positive, but there is more reality to be had, and we need to change the future.
So the council members come and go, staff stays, as long as the staff understands what is required.
So you really choose anything about the council are we at the right process?
No, I mean, the council, for example, what Bruce and Marianne did with the coastal engineers being involved and then determined I think that should have been more like a building official thing, but they got involved and now seems like on the beach are happy with that outcome.
So
So then I learned about the ESA study that they're currently working on, right? Which
But they're
the
good
last
thing.
council hired them to do 6 years ago. So now there's the ESA study that has wave uprush analysis for every property in Malibu.
Already done.
So when that gets published, I'd say it's
But
put
that's talking
should
about
be
6
told to
feet.
stop coming.
They are
Right?
talking
It's
6
ready
feet
to ramp
rails,
before.
not 4.5 feet.
That's fine with me.
So I wouldn't mess
I'll
with
use
that.
it.
You know what? So that council got involved in something that is building and safety. Okay, I don't think it was.
Well, listen, I mean, to speak slightly in defense of the building official here, these are some big calls that are being made.
I know.
I mean, if tomorrow a massive wave comes and, wipes out a house or whatever, right? I'm starting to sound like the geo consultant.
But is the council so? Who's gonna be responsible if something happens?
Media are going to be owner, so the building official, is basically saying, listen, I don't want to be on the hook to make this call, and you guys, the elected members of the people, make this call. Now, the elected members of the
Can
people,
they make the call though?
well, they did,
But they did. But are they gonna be blamed if something happens?
No,
Or
they're not.
responsible?
because they are enacting the will of the people. That's the piece that I think gets misunderstood, that they're there
I think
as
council
our representatives.
surely-
And we have formed this group
Yeah.
because they aren't enacting the will of the people. That's why MRTF has to jump in and do that stuff.
Yes, but let's go back to what is the realm of council. To me, they create policy that is more related to zoning. Like the whole thing with the bolt, all of that, that's council, okay? Building and safety is actually, in my opinion, anything that we do building and safety wise for fire victims should be coordinated with the rest of the city.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Because we're all building per code.
We have not been saying change the building code at all. I've not heard Abe
I
say
agree.
once, let's change the building code. What he's been saying and what I've been hearing, and I think we've all been hearing, and the council has been hearing is your system needs more efficiency. Here are ways to make it more efficient. And the council in making policy can tell the city staff and manager, we want it to be more efficient. Let's vote on that. And then have the city manager start creating these efficiency thresholds to cross, and then everybody would speed up. That's what the city staff should be getting, so they don't have to suffer and work 6 to 7 days a week. They get a system that actually helps them and helps everybody.
That actually produces the output that is necessary to rebuild the city, right? I mean, the way we are operating, if all of a sudden 100 applications came in or plan check tomorrow,
That's
I
a
mean,
real
we're
deal.
gonna do that
That's what
DEFCON
we
thing.
need to do. Are we happy or not, right?
then we gotta do that DEFCON thing with, the building
You
official
cannot.
personally providing
You gotta go
oversight
one by one.
and connecting. You can't do that.
It has to
That's
be
my point.
institutionalized, is what you're saying?
Yes, institutionalized, that's right. That's
Or
my favorite word.
codified.
That's gonna be the next t-shirt.
Yeah.
Institutionalize the shit. That's
Institutionalized.
Well, the institutional memory and mindset needs to shift. They need to get ready for a long.
And they also need to test a little bit, right?
But they need to get ready for a fast marathon, right? They're going to have to be sprinting for 10 years.
They institutionalized the 3-count DFU for toilets in landslide areas. That was a good one. They institutionalized MEPs only required for above 5,000.
Well, that's exactly my point, is that for the last 10 months, all of what we have been yelling and saying that these are doable are all being done, right? And that should be a cue to the council to open their eyes and see that we weren't just madmen talking nonsense, because the building officials are actually incorporating a bunch of things that we've been stating for a while. To their credit, But there are more things that we are stating, and instead of pushing back and saying LA Times is wrong and Abe shut up, just incorporate and welcome these ideas. Let's collectively recognize that we are in this shit like we've never imagined.
Well, people don't like being criticized, so they're hearing us and getting defensive, and slowly we will erode their defenses, I think, and then they'll start implementing.
I want to know from Arno, so do you think it's a problem of content or form, right? Because I am bad at this. Like I see things black or white, so I go and I say, no, this should be this way. And then I sometimes lost the argument, not because of what I'm saying, is because of how I'm saying it. And you guys witnessed that and I admit it, right? So what is the problem here? Because we've been very nice throughout, and then Aid and you guys turned the heat on, and it looks like it couldn't change. So how can we do it so we don't need to turn the heat up and still make improvement?
I don't know. I mean, I just go back to thinking that if we have 3 out of 5 council members whose minds are so closed that it's impossible to move the needle, that most of the conversations center around self-preservation and making himself or herself look good. Real leadership is when you recognize a problem and you say, okay, man, this is beyond me. Let me invite other discussions and solutions to fix it. Not to say that, man, I did this and look how beautifully this is working, when clearly it's not.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, that's the piece. So at this point, I'm not very optimistic that we can change their minds like that, because we need a mindset shift. We need people to think differently and act on it.
And how can we be more convincing now? What do you think we can do better at this approach? I mean, so far it looks like Bruce wants you to be back an ambassador.
So the question is, and one thing I like to say is, if you want to be heard, you need to listen better, which is kind of contradictory. But the question is,
Are you trying to tell me something, man?
Real listens, he listens.
the hell? No. The question is, do they think, now we're good, let's sit back, stop heckling us, we're fine now? Or is there something that they're seeing that they would like?
I've heard Marianne saying that there's a lot of improvement to be made and the staff is working hard on making improvement. I've heard her in an interview saying this.
So
then
what
why-
was you saying, Jasper? They are saying, we got this, we're working in the background, we will reveal and we'll pull the great surprises and improvements
they're
out of
saying-
our hats. We don't need your help anymore.
No.
We got this.
Well, that was a message end of September, right? When they basically want to give me my flowers and they get lost.
It's about feelings. It's like, don't hurt our feelings.
Well, is it also just they don't want any transparency?
No, it's
I mean,
not.
it's
It's full government. It's more basic.
Likes being opaque for a lot of reasons, right? So we did.
That suggests an ulterior motive.
But that's just the way government tends to be, right? So we got to sneak behind the veil.
I work for the
6
government,
months, and then, we challenged a lot of their processes, and that's like airing their dirty laundry to the world. So they didn't like that. They don't want it to continue. So how can we do this without making them feel exposed? I think that's really the
So
question.
we need like someone soft to communicate. Who's soft here?
I think Danny. That's why he isn't here, right?
Danny's
he
not
knows
soft.
that we're going to suggest that
You can be.
You can be when the air flows from.
I mean, he's a very convincing actor, is what I've been told. So
I am so bad at that, bro.
Oh, man. Anyway, so it goes. And I know we'll get this done.
We need listeners to comment on the feed.
And that's
To
the
tell
thing.
us.
They need to hear from
You're
more
full of
people.
shit.
No, they need to hear from more people than just the usual handful that goes to the city council meetings, because they all only hear from the same people and they feel like it's the opinion of a small group. Just like we're talking about the opinions of the small group of people on the dais. So more resident participation, coming to the meetings, voicing their grievances, so that they see that it's not just us. That
Well, I mean,
see
and
the
the other
other
thing
faces.
is, you got to feel for people. I mean, these council meetings run so long.
Yeah,
I'm
5,
scrambling
6
on my
hours.
iPad. I'm trying to get work done.
I think
and
people
things like
read more
that.
than
They
that.
just need to. People just need to. Maybe people think, and just ideas. Maybe people think if they go to the council meeting and arrive at 6:30, they have to stay until 1. But people can come in for the
I don't
public
know.
comments.
I don't know. I
and,
think,
and
I think
leave after
life
2
is
hours.
hard enough. Life was hard enough for people raising a family, managing jobs, and now there's another full-time job, which is building a damn house.
Yeah.
And on top of that, if you expect people are going to show up and things like that, like,
And keep track of the craziness of
and
Malibu
keep track of the
politics.
craziness, and then you walk away feeling like you want to put a bullet through your own head, right? At times, I mean, it is you can't expect folks to
And
walk
most of the people who did have their properties burned, they didn't stay nearby. They had to go somewhere else, right?
Exactly.
So they're 3
Some of them are
hours
in
away.
New York.
They can only zoom in.
They
Yeah,
cannot
maybe
come
they're
to
in
the
those
rebuild
time
center
zones.
in
They're
person.
not going to
And
be
as much
That's the thing, they
available
can
just
zoom
because of
in.
geography.
And
they can
as-
express themselves on Zoom. I mean, the thing is,
Not easy.
it would help. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy, but I believe it would help.
But what I'm saying is that narrative that, okay, it's the same few that show up and make the comments and therefore it's not a real concern, that's just a lazy narrative because,
Of course.
just focus on the conversation that is being had. Just ignore the person saying it. Just focus on the merits of the arguments that are being made and refute them.
Can we touch base on what they said that squeaky wheels, like being too negative, whatever, is actually hurting more the residents than helping them rebuild? What is
there were
what
some
is
comments
what
like
is your
that.
response to
Let's
that?
do a referendum and find out. I think everybody will universally say that the progress that they've seen in the last 3 weeks is unlike anything they've seen in the last 9 months.
Or 10 years.
And,
But that's
and-
it.
In the
Of
city,
course.
no.
And so if the referendum, if we do a vote and we can do an online vote and saying that, hey, let's stop this media stuff and go back to the way as things were, and if majority of Malibuites feel that that's the way we ought to operate, 100% will do that. We internally, representing a bunch of people, and we met a whole bunch of them at Duke's the other day, that was mid-October, look at how
250
excited everybody was that we are finally getting some attention in the media. They didn't come to me and slam me saying, hey, you gotta stop this shit, man.
And
I'm
that's
going
a
to
voice from a council member who says that our media outreach is actually the cause for low property values and people not rebuilding. And it's,
Did they said that?
yeah,
That's stupid.
the council member said that to me, and I think it's an insult.
Well, property values haven't
Because it would
dropped
be
at
very
all.
simple.
in my
If we
opinion.
were at 50 or 100 permits, things would look very different.
Well, we want the people to rebuild. Like that's what we're doing,
Yeah.
right?
That's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing.
Simple as that.
Palisades, we're seeing a bit of the start of a flywheel effect, right? I mean, property prices are going up.
Property prices are going out.
In the alphabets, you gotta try buy a land. You gotta fight with multiple bidders, and it's usually going above ask.
And you see
Because they're
listings on PCH, you see interested parties coming up. I mean, the properties that I see listed on PCH, they're asking now more than they asked in 2022 for the same piece of dirt.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
So-
just because the people in the Palisades are not creating negative press. That's its entire reason.
That's the entire reason. So that's what I'm saying. Like, as long as this closed-mindedness cannot stop, like nobody's criticizing anybody. But if you keep speaking from the dais and say that we are okay, we don't have an issue, stop saying negative things and things like that, as opposed to how can we collectively work together? Because none of us have witnessed anything like this. That's a perfectly okay thing to say, right? And that's the hallmark of being a true leader. Like, we haven't done this before.
Be proactive and come up with a suggestion.
And that's kind
Not-
of
not-
exactly
not-
what's
not
happening.
shoot
Or at
suggestions
least
down,
acknowledge the other suggestions and
we
see
were-
if there's
or
merit.
create a forum where those suggestions can be worked out and come to fruition instead of just stonewalling me.
They did that with those workshops, but they proved themselves as they didn't really listen too much. But now we found a way. We found a way, and
We
now
found a way. I mean, I think, and that's what it takes to, open the antennas and things like that. Then so be it. And the only way this is going to end well is when the cadence of permit improves. And we don't have to manage the way it does. We just are focused on the results.
Have there been any increases in PV approvals since?
I think so. I saw some. The only one thing, so I really liked when I think it was nice of her to give you the credit at the meeting, right? A bit because we have been proposing all these improvements. So that was nice from Yolanda. The one thing that I don't know if I like too much is when they say 371 permits issued and stuff. That to me is a bit petty because
permits
maybe
in
true.
connection with the fire and
Yeah,
debris
because
removal.
the objective of numbers is to not to confuse people, and they're trying to say,
of PR.
and they're trying to say that the good numbers that we see in other jurisdictions is because they count, like, why don't you say how many papers have you printed today, right? Like maybe we don't care about numbers. The numbers need to mean something. Of course, in the policy, there's more than 800 houses that can be rebuilt. Don't houses that have permits so you can start.
Well, I
building.
mean,
I think we should
Numbers
really
are
just focus on how many construction sites are active in the rebuild zone. Is it
Not how many permits for homes for fire victims to come back home.
Permit
And
is
let's
not,
do it with a
the
percentage.
GC mobilized, that's something. So how many?
I mean, that's a no.
GC
We can talk about numbers all day, but
That's
you know,
like
the
the
drive
same.
through Palisades and you see 300 frames that are up, and some of these houses are stuccoing, and you know, they're you know, some of them may even move in before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I'll bet you there'll be 3 or 4
I think
Palisades
that's
that
I think
Thanksgiving
that's
will.
what I think that's what you know, gives people hope. You know, forget the numbers. No one really cares about the numbers. The reason everyone started talking about the numbers because we were seeing nothing is
Because we
happening.
were comparing, right?
Because
And
there
then
were
they-
no numbers.
There were no numbers.
There was
right
zero.
from there.
Yeah.
So you know, I think whatever. I mean, that's the other issue is, you know, we need to stop focusing on all the PR and focus on the guts of the process. And if you fix the guts of the process, these things will flow.
And
The PR will follow.
Let's
They
be
already follow.
clear that we don't want bad PR for Malibu. We want Malibu to be a success.
Look,
We need to get good results.
We're Malibu's biggest champions.
Well,
And
that's
then-
the residents to say. I believe so, but
Yeah.
I think that we will prove that we've had a good
Yeah.
influence, right?
Before the end of the year, I want to see East Malibu turned into a massive construction site. Do you think that'll happen?
Before the end of the year, you said?
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
hope that
I want to see at least 20 job
I
sites.
think we will. I think 2 years. The 2 year mark is the most important one after a catastrophe in Malibu. Per my experience with, we'll see all of that. If by year 2 we are at, I don't know, 300, that would be great.
I mean, I was excited sitting in that gridlock on PCH because I drove by this massive auger, and then I realized it wasn't a rebuild; it was Caltrans, and I was like, "Oh crap!" I thought it was a
saying,
rebuild.
but that's
I was
good
like, "Yeah, it's
news.
the best news."
That's
but it
good
wasn't.
news that Caltrans is not waiting for the houses to be rebuilt to start doing their stuff.
Yeah, they're shoring up the highway in some fashion.
All right, enough for one day. I gotta take my pops out for a walk.
That's cool.
sounds good.